Hello everybody, once again this is G, and today I want to get back to some megabase machines because I feel like we haven't done this in a while, and I've been working on this particular one for a few days now, and what we've got here is a space pie factory, quite frankly. This is enough to feed about 100 dupes. It produces over 100,000 calories, so I think it qualifies as a megabase machine. Anyways, let's get into the details. I'll show you how it works. Alright, here we go. Let me show you the room overlay. So if we look here, we got several greenhouses. We've got Sleet Wheat, Bristle Blossoms, and Grubfruits, which are only available in Spaced Out. And above that, we've got a stable with these Sweetles going on over here. And Sweetles and these Grubs down here, they are related. And there's a whole setup going on over here. So I can kind of show it to you top to bottom. So when these Sweetles, they lay eggs, these eggs, they actually fall down into here. But only Sweetle eggs will get picked up. And if these Sweetles lay Grub eggs, they're just going to fall down here. And then they're going to stay here. And they're just going to grow into more Grubs. Incidentally, over here, we've got these loaders, which are going to pick up the Sweetle eggs. And they're going to drop them in this area here. You can see they're piling up. And this is the area where the sweepers cannot pick them up. We've got several sweepers here. And you can see they can reach all the way around here, and they reach through these doors. Now, the trick with the doors here, this is something I've showed in some other farm videos. You can check out the chill farm or the mushroom farm. The idea here is to use these doors to control the size of the room. Again, let me go back to the room overlay. You can see here we've got the Sleet Wheat farm, and it's only one tile high, but the dupes can still get in here because you can open these doors and just leave them open, and dupes can just walk right past them like they're not even there, but they do work for the size of the room. So they create a perimeter for the rooms, but they allow dupes to walk through them. In fact, dupes can also walk on top of them. So a lot of times what would happen is a dupe comes in here, goes on top of the doors, comes down here, and so forth. It's very convenient, and you can really control the size of the rooms this way. And they can also be used to reach through for the light, sensors, and the sweepers here. And over here you see things will fall down, like the eggs will fall down and so forth. And then it can be picked up as needed. Sulfur is being supplied by a conveyor belt in here to feed these Sweetles and these Grubs. And we've got feeders over here, and we set priority. We want to feed, let's see here. We want to feed these guys first, and then we want to feed these guys. Now, why do we want to feed the Sweetles first? Is because they're domesticated. These guys are wild. Now, they can also become domesticated if a domesticated Sweetle drops an egg, turns into a domesticated Grub. So yeah, everything is being picked up and delivered by conveyor belts. Let me show you the overlay here. All right, here we go. So you can see here, first of all, we got dirt coming in on this conveyor belt. And the dirt is actually being pre-chilled. Again, it's kind of similar to the way it's done in the chill farm, but a little bit different. And it comes in here and it feeds into this area where the Sleet Wheat is. And then, again, like I mentioned, sulfur comes in and it feeds the plants, and then it feeds the critters, the oily sulfur. And then sucrose gets taken away and gets put into this. This is the main removal conveyor. Everything gets collected on each level and it gets put into here, into this area. Right here, there's a chlorine room that's maintained at a low temperature. I'll show that to you in a minute. Anyways, so Grubfruits get picked up, and we've got Bristle Blossoms and we've got Sleet Wheat. It all gets picked up and dropped in here. One exception is Sweetle eggs. So what we want to do is we want to collect Sweetle eggs, like I mentioned, and drop them here. But if there's too many, we've got this critter sensor over here. And again, you can play around with this to set the different settings. I got it set to below 7 critters, and it doesn't count eggs. So if there's not that many, it will just drop them in here. But if there's too many critters, then this vent will shut off. And what's going to happen is this conveyor is going to then move into this vent over here and drop them into this water. Now, you can see this water here. I'm using this pneumatic door to keep the critters out. One thing I noticed is critters, they can't use a door, even if it's like, let's say, even if it's open in the moment while a dupe walks through it, critters can't get out of it. The door has to be permanently set to open for critters to get out. So you can put a door here, and this allows dupes to go back and forth. And oh, by the way, they can just teleport right over this tile, so they never get sopping wet or wet feet or anything like that. And then the critters' eggs get dropped in here. When they eventually spawn, they drown, and then the meat gets picked up and turned into barbecue. You can also do omelettes if you want, but I'm doing barbecue in this case. So, anyways, let's have a look at the plumbing. So over here, we've got a feet of water comes in. Just, I'm simulating this as kind of the rest of your base, but you'd have it as a fresh water source. And then you got polluted water being taken away. This is from the washrooms. And this can get treated and then fed back. Anyways, so fresh water comes in and it goes through here. And this actually helps to take away some of the heat. And it feeds into the showers and so forth. And then the remainder gets into here and it gets split two ways. One way gets fed into the bristle blossoms. And the other way gets fed into this chiller. And I presented this chiller for the first time in the chill farm. So make sure to check that out in the link below. But what happens is water gets dripped into here, and once there's enough water, it's going to stop dripping, the vent is going to close, and the water is just going to sit here until it gets to the desired temperature. Then it gets pumped away. And this thermosensor over here checks if it's below 0, and once it is, it's going to activate this pump. And water will get pumped away. Also, if it's not at the desired temperature, then these doors will close, and essentially heat will get sucked out of this section. The water will get chilled. And the source of chill is this ethanol pool down here. And this ethanol pool is being cooled actually by a ethanol loop. You can also use supercoolant, but in this build we're not using any space materials. In fact, I've set it up in such a way that you don't need any space tech, at least at the time of making this video. So anyways, this is sufficient. And you keep this at about 50 degrees below 0 Celsius, and it's sufficient. And then over here we have a similar thing going on. But now what we're doing is we're taking this ethanol loop over here instead of this drip. We just have a loop going through here. And this sensor here, it checks if it's below negative 27. And if it is, it's going to open these doors. And if it gets above that temperature, meaning it's too warm, it's going to close these doors. And the chill is going to pass this way. Heat is going to be drawn down. And this ethanol loop is going to cool on its way out. And then it's going to loop through here. So if we look here, we've got cobalt pipes over here, radiant, and then all above here is insulated. So we've got this chlorine here. We essentially have this chlorine room above. And you can also use CO2 for this. And what we want to do is we want to cool this part down here, really, and this part to below about negative 25 degrees or so. And this is to keep the food in deep freeze. So if we look here, over here we got deep freeze going on, so there's no rot. And again, this can vary. It's just because this is like edge of the map, I built it like this, but you can change it up if you want. The important thing is this gets cooled, but the top section of it isn't that cold. You can see about 15 degrees. And also, you see this area here is not insulated. So what happens is some of the heat that comes out of these ovens, it gets sent up because of the convection of oxygen, and it gets cooled. So if you look at the temperature, I want to show you. You see this is pretty cold. Really cold down here. A little bit cold here. Not so much over here. And it keeps this room nice and cool. And if you look at the temperature overall, you see that this is very comfortable and this is very chill, but there's a reason this is placed at the very bottom, is because of this convection that exists. Warm gases tend to rise up and the cold gases tend to go down. So they teleport, they trade places when that happens. That's the way the convection works in this game. So you always want to put your cold farms at the bottom and your warm farms at the top and create sort of a gradient. And this way, you're not going to have kind of a wasteful exchange of heat. There's still going to be some waste, but it's pretty good. And then over here, I want to show you something. You see, this is very cozy in here. In fact, it's a little cool. And the reason this happens is we have this loop of water comes back 100 grams. And how does that happen? Well, we have this valve here set to 1600 grams. And only 1500 is needed to feed the 45 Sleet Wheat plants. And then the excess gets recirculated. Let me show you. So water goes in here, goes to the plants, they're full. The excess gets recirculated up, and it has priority. And you see water comes in at 20 degrees, but then when you combine it with this, you get a 19.8. So just a slight chill. And again, because warm gases rise up, they come up to the top. What ends up happening is they get cooled, and then you get a nice, even equilibrium here of temperature. So whenever you do cooling in your base, as a tip, I would say you want to set up the cooling at the top, and then the warm gases will just rise up naturally. So you don't need to like cool everything. You just cool the top section, and then it's going to even out. So you want to put hot things at the top, and then you want to put cold things at the bottom in your base in general. This is just one example of kind of a self-contained village. And again, the chiller obviously is turbine here with the aqua tuner, nothing special. The kitchen, we got 1 gas range, 2 electric grills. I don't think this is enough, frankly, for this thing. Probably need to expand it. I just made it kind of compact here, but I think when we build this in survival, we're going to really expand this out. And yes, I definitely want to build this in survival. I'm pretty excited. I think we might put this in the factory. I don't know if we can put it on the main base or the second asteroid, but we'll see. But yeah, now a couple of things that I want to show you as well. Let me show you the automation real quick. So automation, there's really not much going on here. Again, this is very similar to the way it's in a chill farm. It checks the temperature of the coolant or ethanol in here. And again, if you want to get real greasy, you can use supercoolant. But ethanol for this particular build checks the temperature of the petroleum down here. So make sure it's not too hot. Make sure this is not too cold. And make sure that the temperature in the pipe is not too cold, so it doesn't burst the pipes. So keeps everything nice and even. And when all these conditions are met, the aqua tuner runs. And to see what the conditions are, wants to make sure the temperature in the petroleum here is below 200. The ethanol in the pipe, not, or rather above negative 95, so we don't want to go below that. And the temperature in here is above negative 50. So yes, the ethanol in the pipes is definitely much colder than the pool. That's to improve the efficiency of the cooling of this pool, but the pool is kept at about negative 50. And if we look at the rest of the automation, it's mostly for the lights. And we got these buffers here, but they're set to 0.5 or 0.1 seconds. And that's just really to set the direction of the signal, nothing to do with buffering. We want to make sure that the signal doesn't travel this way. We want to make sure it only travels in this particular direction. So this is to control the signal. So when this sensor activates, it's going to activate this light. But when these sensors up here activate, they do not send a signal in this direction. So, and then same thing here. So this kind of helps to segment the direction of the signals. Kind of acts like diodes here. And same thing over here. And so forth. And then over here, we've got this critter sensor connected to this chute. And down here, this is pretty straightforward. We got one sensor on each side with a light in the middle. As I mentioned over here, these doors, they allow light and sensors to go through. So we have these lights at the top. Let me show you. You see light shines all the way to the bottom here. So you don't need to have that many lights. And you can't put the lights below these doors. So they have to go on like below some solid tiles. You can't just stick them on these doors or anything. So that's why I had to put it here. And so forth. And then added these glass tiles over here so that, again, light can go through them, but they're solid, so you can stick sensors on the bottom of them, and so forth. Let me show you the power here. Again, pretty straightforward. We got simple grid. We have 2 feeds, and this one is overcommitted as hell, but it actually doesn't use that much. So you can see the maximum is 7,000, but really it uses about 500, maybe 1,000 at once, and the maximum here is capped at 2,000. And the way you do it is just put 2 of the small transformers together. This makes sure that, like, this ensures the line will not overload, and this one will never overload just because it's not overcommitted. So this one you can just put 1 big transformer. Yeah, as to the venting, it's again pretty straightforward. We got an oxygen feed coming in, and we have this gas pipe for the ranges. I just have one range for now, but probably need more than one oven. Feed for the chlorine, you only use it once, so then you don't need it. Anyway, the oxygen has comes in here, and it feeds several levels, kind of even it out. But then down here we have a CO2 scrubber or capture, and again, I've shown this in several videos. You put a mini gas pump over here, and you put a gas element sensor, checks for CO2. This guy over here filters out oxygen, sends it back into the base. So let me show you. So yeah, you get all the gases come in here. Oxygen goes back into the base, has priority into this vent, and is then topped up by this pipe. And then everything else, CO2, etc., gets pumped out, and then you can just put it wherever. I just dump it overboard in this particular demo. So yeah, a couple of things, yeah. So we got fertilizer as well, and fertilizer feeds into, well, really fertilizer feeds into anywhere there is a farm station. Technically, these you don't need to feed if you don't want to use them, but they have to exist in the greenhouse. And you can just feed this one here. And then you just deprioritize these. You just set them to like priority 1 or something. And they don't need to do anything. That's up to you. I started with these and then I realized, we can just put this over here. Even better. So yeah. Now, as for the numbers, as I mentioned, this at its maximum can output 100,000 calories every cycle. But what you need is more dupes to operate all this. It's kind of a skeleton crew right now. You need these ovens running like constantly, all of them. Basically, this guy over here is going to grill bristle berries, put them into here. And this sweeper, you can see it reaches everywhere. And this guy loads it in to this oven, and then also tops up with Sleet Wheat and Grubfruits. And then you cook this mixed berry pie. And then what happens is mixed berry pie will get loaded by this sweeper. So you can just reach over here, and it's going to put them into this fridge. And you set this fridge to a very low number, minimal possible. So in this case, I put for 3 dupes, you put 1 kilo. Because 1 kilo of this pie can feed 3 dupes, and I think there's still some left over. Very nutritious. So yeah. And then also this guy will also pick up anything that dupes might drop on the floor, and then put them in the fridge. And if it doesn't fit in the fridge, it goes into this ration box, and so forth. Anyway, this electric grill, it cooks all the excess. So out of this machine, you're going to get a maximum of 15 mixed berry pies. That gets you 63,000 calories per cycle. And it uses 2 grills. It uses this grill, and it uses this oven to cook that. This cooks berry pie. This does the bristle berry, which is a requirement. Omelette, yeah, you don't really need this. You can if you want. And this does all the excess. I'll put the omelette here. So preserve, you'll produce 9 preserves, and buns, it'll produce 15 buns from all the stuff that is left over. And the limiting factor here is the bristle berries. It uses 1 bristle berry for 1 mixed pie here. And you get 15 bristle berries every cycle when they're fertilized. Like at maximum rate, you're going to get 15 per cycle. So that's 15 pies. And then you're going to get 90 Sleet Wheats, again, with maximum fertilization. You're going to get 90 Sleet Wheats per cycle. Excess gets put into Frost Buns. And if you don't fertilize them, then you're not going to have any excess. So you could do it that way too. And then with the excess Grubfruits, you get 9 preserves left over. So, yeah. As for the resources that it uses, it's quite a bit. So we got, let me see here. Yeah, so for the sulfur, you're going to need 680 kilos per cycle. Water, you're going to need 1,800 kilos per cycle. Dirt, you're going to need 225 kilos per cycle. And fertilizer, you're going to need 670 kilos per cycle. Anyway, the sulfur does include both for the plants and the critters. That's one thing I want to mention. Yeah, definitely really looking forward to building this in survival. So anyways, that's all I have for you right now. This has been Greasy Hammer. And if you found this inspiring or interesting, then make sure to smash that like button. And if you want to see more, then make sure to subscribe. And I'll keep working on the next video. I got to get back to the survival series. So I'll be working on that. Thank you very much, everybody. And to my subscribers, an additional thank you. I really appreciate it, you guys and girls. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.